Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. On Election Day, Skip validates America has always been great because the Cowboys have always been America's team. Shannon educates us on the recent events out of the University of Wisconsin. The guys look back at the 25th anniversary of Magic Johnson's HIV announcement. Plus, Hall of Fame wideout Chris Carter is here to advocate for better treatment of NFL referees. And our friend Nellie checks in to confirm that Steph Curry is the best shooter of all time. Shannon, did you figure out Skip's secret?
I finally figured out how you've been winning the debates.
Oh, you're admitting I've been winning the debate.
You won a few of them.
Oh.
You like the Seahawks. You bring your own refs.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Who, me?
Uh-huh.
The Seahawks held on to beat the Bills 31-25 last night, but the bigger story was at the end of the first half. Richard Sherman hit kicker Dan Carpenter low after the play was whistled dead. No roughing penalty was called, but a 5-yard offsides penalty was called on Sherman. Ultimately, Carpenter missed a field goal. Hall of Famer Chris Carter is with us. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. What was your reaction to the non-call last night?
Well, to me, it's what we've been going through the last 5 years in the NFL. You know, what are the rules? How do they apply to all the players? Because we have seen for years, you know, guys unabated offside. And typically when it's a quarterback, the referee automatically, if he's unabated and can get to the quarterback, they stop the play immediately. That's always been the rule. And in the kicking game, it should be the same rule because the kickers are unprotected. So once the whistle blows, the play is dead. Now, if it was an offensive play and the quarterback, left defensive end jumps offside, he's unabated to the quarterback, he says he don't hear the whistle, he hits the quarterback and throws him down. Now, we have seen this happen hundreds of times.
Yeah.
It's a flag.
Offside and a personal foul.
Yep.
You know, so for me, it's about consistency. And I think that's what the players, they have the hardest time with. Shannon, you know, when we get to the playoffs, the refs are not going to call anything. But we know that going into the game.
Correct.
Every referee and crew, we have a scouting report the team gives out. This guy calls this. This guy calls this. He won't call this. He does this. But the inconsistencies, I mean, it makes it harder for the players in the NFL, those 1,400 players in the league, to do their job on a regular basis because there's no type of consistency on this play. It should have been a personal foul because he could have really hurt him.
He said, well, first of all, the rule you're talking about, that's the Bruce Smith rule. He jumped off sides, unabated, hit Boomer Esiason, and knocked him unconscious. They changed the rule. So if he's unabated, clear path to the quarterback, they're stopping it immediately. So if you don't hear, don't worry about it. You're offsides, and they're going to get you for 15 yards. Now, Richard Sherman said he knew he was offsides. So anything that he thought he might could do after that is null and void. Because you can't commit an act and then say, well, I did something else and it's okay. No, you're offsides. So even if you tip the ball and hit the guy's leg, it should have been unnecessary roughness. It should have been moved 15 yards closer, not a 5 yards offsides penalty. So you blow that call. Now, because the guy's hurt, you don't have a timeout. You have to, a training staff have to come out, get him. He has to go out. Now you have to run a play to kill the clock, spike the ball so you can get him back in. In the final 2 minutes of the half or the game, the official, the same substitution rule does not apply. He can't stand over the ball. He's standing over the ball. Why? See,
They brought the kicker ball in.
Right.
The K ball.
Yes.
Okay.
But once you spot the ball, he was still standing there.
He was still
standing. And the clock was still ticking down.
4 seconds left.
So
you got no shot.
You can't do that. See, that's not a human error. That's a mistake because he didn't know the rules. See, it's the difference between knowing what pass interference and holding is and not throwing the flag. See, he didn't know the rules. He didn't know in the final 2 minutes. Because if he knew the rules in the final 2 minutes of the half in the game, and you're not supposed to, the substitution rules does not apply, he shouldn't be an official. Because that's blatant. There are certain rules you got to know. You must know. And because they don't have full time, the NFL is penny pinching. The franchises, if you look at Mr. Khan, he bought the Jags for $700 million, and they're almost worth $2 billion in 4 years. So the money is going up exponentially.
Ooh.
But somehow they can't come out their pocket for an extra $20 million a year to pay these officials to make sure.
But we can play on Thursday nights.
Correct. Good point.
Go ahead, Skip.
Have you wanted Chris Carter full-time officials? Have you ever campaigned for it? Have you talked it up in the locker room or in committee meetings?
This is the thing. I think that the life of NFL referees and the life that they've been able to afford themselves off the field, it's really hard because they are professional people.
They are.
It's really hard to change that paradigm. But the NFL, they are in a position financially that they could do something that the refs look more like full-time officials. So when you're in the National Football League, I said it yesterday, only 24,000 guys have ever played in the NFL. Man, we're fighting for our life every freaking day. Mm-hmm. But this guy, he working part-time. That just don't seem to be right to me, Skip.
It does not. So they cost Buffalo 3 points that had been made. They had to wipe it away because they didn't reset the clock. Mm-hmm. Their fault.
Yes.
And obviously the 3 points came much into play down the stretch of the game because it could have been a 3-point game instead of a 6-point game. And Tyrod Taylor had it down to the 7-yard line with 1 minute and 1 second left. I think we would have seen overtime. And I would have given Tyrod, who was operating last night. That was a special game. He fought his guts out in that game. I would have given him a shot in overtime to pull off a little more magic, even though he didn't have Sammy Watkins and, he's basically thrown to Robert Woods 10 times, right? But still, you impacted the football game. And as I told Shannon to open the show, we have all these reasons we talk about declining TV ratings. Maybe one that we should put near the top of the list is people are losing faith in the referees on the field. There's no more credibility because this doesn't happen every Monday night or an occasional Thursday night or whatever. It happens every Sunday in almost every game. Yes. There's something that goes on. That's why Sean Payton took a stand, remember, 2 weeks ago? He said, why don't we have full-time refs? Because every game I coach gets impacted by wrong calls or missed calls. And now we've watched Richie Sherman get away with holding Julio's inside arm on what should have been a blatant pass interference that probably would have given Atlanta a win at Seattle. That's huge for playoffs, right?
Absolutely.
For home field advantage.
Yeah. And coach's job.
You got it.
You think Rex Ryan didn't need that win last night?
Right. You know what? It would have really stabilized.
That'd have been a big win.
Woo.
So you talk about why it just seems to be they're more egregious. Let's just take the fail Mary. Everybody remembers that. But there's a play between Detroit and Seattle. Just when Bobby Wagner batted the ball out of the end zone.
Yes.
He intentionally, because you could see him squat down, bat the ball out of the end zone, and they gave the ball to Seattle. That's an illegal batting. Now we see the Julio. Now we see this. Something is going.
And this is not baseball. This is not the NBA. One loss can change the course of your career, the coaching staff's career. So each one, them 16 games, they're critical.
Because an official.
And that is not alleviated by Park Avenue saying on Monday or Tuesday, you know something? Hey, Dean, we know you made a mistake. So that full disclosure thing, I'm not with that. I'm with you. I'm leaning more towards full-time officials refereeing the most popular game in America.
Because there are only 16 of them, Skip, a baseball umpire would have to miss 16 calls to have the equivalent.
Yeah.
A basketball, a referee would have to miss 8 calls to get the equivalent of one blown call or one costly in one game. So think about it. The umpire he'd have to miss 16 to be this egregious of what they missed last night. It's unacceptable because they're making so much money. They're getting checks, but Fox and ESPN and CBS and NBC cutting each owner. Each owner gets a check from about $225 to $250 million every year. Skip.
Yes.
They hadn't sold any tickets, no parking, no concession, no jerseys. That's before everything. So before they even pump up the footballs, Jerry Jones, the Maras, got $250 million in their pocket.
Yes.
So you mean to tell me you can't come? Each team can't come out their pocket for just for sake of argument, $2 million a team.
This is what I think they need to do. I think the NFL needs to develop a developmental league. Have the referees work in the developmental league like we used to have NFL Europe. Have them work in there. We know we can compensate them. Let's make it right for them. Mm-hmm. It's the greatest game. It's the most popular game.
Is.
Everyone's making money. Let's compensate them because I believe the overall refereeing and all the rule changes. I mean, I played in the league 16 years. I don't know all the rules. I'm watching game with people that say, what they, I don't know. I ain't saying nothing. because I'm not 100%. In the last 5 years, we have changed so many rules. I don't know if the general public understands. And I believe that will affect the ratings and how people tune in to watch NFL and watch the product.
It'll hurt their ratings, too. They hurt their pocket. You know they cheap. You know they stingy.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay. I want both your opinions of this. Richard Sherman, obviously a great football player. Buddy Ryan challenged him on the sideline when Richard was... I'm sorry, Rex Ryan. What was I saying, Buddy? Rex challenged him when Richard was staring him down later in the game, and he said, basically, you're better than that, Richard. Don't be... And I won't repeat what he called him. Mm-hmm. Called him a name.
Yeah.
And I'm with Rex on that because now we've seen Richard twice in this same game, unabated to the kicker. He said, I didn't want him to have a free kick, and he was trying to hide behind the letter of the law, which says if you block a kick, you can't rough the kicker. But clearly he was illegally offsides already, so all bets are off to me. And he went low, and I'm sorry, that's a dirty play. And the more I look at the play, on the last play of the game, that little kid, Walter Powell, third year in the league, had caught no balls until this year. Richard just flat out knocked him down away from the ball. Yes. And again, we read the rule, Joy read the rule. And the point is, if the quarterback demonstrates no further intention to pass the football, then all bets are off. But you can't hide behind that because I'm pretty sure Tyrod wanted to throw the football. He's rolling left, patting the football. He's looking to throw. Well, you can't tell me he has tucked and run because he hadn't tucked and run. And as you pointed out earlier, it wasn't like he was almost to the line of scrimmage. He wasn't. He's looking for a last gasp throw into the end zone to win the football game. And you, away from the football, you just dropped this kid. I mean, you just knocked him. Again, I said earlier, maybe it could be defensive holding. Well, that's not holding. That's just unnecessary roughness to me.
I'm going to tell you, Skip, and we know this as players. We might not admit it and be honest, but Shannon and I, I'm sure we will be. Every time I wanted to hurt a guy, he knew it, and I knew it. And we know as ball players what you can do and what you can't do. It's so easy to hurt a kicker. It's kind of like in basketball where they blow the whistle and a guy gets off a free shot so he can see it go in. And you see him goaltended because the whistle's blown. Right. So that's what Richard is trying to make the excuse.
Right.
But also, when you get in the position that he was in, to me, he wasn't trying to block it. To me, he was trying to body block somebody. And Buddy Ryan taught us this. Anytime there's a kicker on the field, if it turns into a football game, never hit a kicker anywhere but on his leg because that's the only thing he's using. And that's what Richard Sherman, he basically put his body on that guy's leg.
The teams I played for in Baltimore and Denver, if Richard Sherman had done that to Matt Stover in Baltimore or Jason Elam, I guarantee you.
Oh, no, I would have went and got him.
I guarantee you, Skip, there's no way his kicker, he better not, because he's going to have to kick off. They're going to have to punt. The kicker or punter, going to have to get on the field somehow. I guarantee you. And I don't like to say all or every, but I'll bet everything if they had done that intentionally, and I believe it was intentional also, there's no way his kicker walk out of there.
Yeah.
No way.
I've heard you say this before on the show. Listen, man, we can do this any kind of way you want to. We can play to the whistle. We can play beyond the whistle. I can do this any kind of way. And that's the conversation I would have had with Richard Sherman. Because what I would have done as a receiver, I would have went out there. I wouldn't have been blocking him up high. I would have told him, I'm going to block you on your money makers. I'm going to hit you right on your knees. And every player know, man, stay off my knees, please.
But if they had thrown a unnecessary roughness penalty, would that still happen? Or would that have been sufficient?
Oh, yeah, well, I still got to get him. I got to send a message.
I think it's a little bit different, though, when the refs take control of the game.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
there's no need for me to take the game into my hands.
That's what I mean. Like, the refs obviously lost control of the game.
We tell the refs, hey, listen, either you handle it or we'll handle it.
Right. Well, that's the problem that we're in right now.
No mercy.
This week, we're taking the show on the road. We will be live in New York for UFC 205. This Thursday and Friday, we will be at the Penzi right outside Madison Square Garden. You can come watch the show in person. Be there by 8 a.m., and we will be live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. More than 20 African-American football players, basketball player Nigel Hayes, and several other student athletes at the University of Wisconsin issued a joint statement to demand change in racial inequalities on campus. The act was sparked by a October 29th football game where two people wore a Halloween costume wearing a Donald Trump mask that depicted President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in a noose. The statement said, "It is painful that someone in our community would show up to an athletic event with a mask of our sitting president, who happens to look a lot like us, with a noose around his neck. That moment was like a punch in the face to not only student athletes of color, but also current students, faculty, and alumni of color. This incident was just another blow and reminder that there are people in this community that may not value diverse populations." Shannon, what's your reaction?
I agree with them. I commend their stance that they're taking. It's so disappointing to me. In 2016, we're still having discussions like this. But what social media has done for us, it has allowed us a glimpse into what's going on in areas that we do not live. You know, unless you was at that stadium, you probably, in that section, you would have never known this transpired. Before I go any further, unless you know the history of Wisconsin, because there has been a lot of poor race relationships in the state of Wisconsin, more specifically Milwaukee, going back to the 60s. And if you remember, there was a situation where a policeman shot a black young man, and there were riots in Milwaukee earlier this year. I think it was August, when that transpired. You see, at the University of Wisconsin, at a football game, someone came into the stadium. They wore that costume into the stadium. It is my belief, I could be wrong, but let's just say, I would say 90 to 99% chance he was or she was a student at the University of Wisconsin. Now, this being a home game, they're there to cheer for the University of Wisconsin players. A lot of those which are black. Now, on one hand, I'm going, let's go Badgers. Get them. Touchdown. Yes, yes. Under the same breath, I got on a black mask with prison stripe uniform and a noose around the sitting president of the United States of America. You see, this should crystallize it for everybody in America. Because, see, a lot of times, and I've caught a lot of flack from a lot of different places. Shannon, you're on television. You got a show with Skip Bayless. You made money. You played in the National Football League. This crystallizes it for you. Some will cheer for you and pat you on the back and tell you how great you are. But as soon as you turn their back, they got no problem discriminating against you, calling you the N-word. You see, and some people will disguise it. See, a lot of times you can find out a lot about people about their Halloween costumes, can't you? Because guess what they'll do, Skip? They'll say, "I'm just Halloween." I think it was Central Arkansas, where they suspended a young man because he dressed up in blackface. At what point in time, white America, do you think dressing up in blackface will be unacceptable? We've gone past, you know now, dressing up in Indian garb is offensive. If you tape your eyes back to look Asian, it is offensive. You know what is offensive. So we can't use that well, I didn't know. And then they will come out and says, well, I didn't mean to offend. That is exactly what you meant to do. That's why you chose that costume. Because if you have to ask, do you think this is appropriate? Don't wear it. See, if I ever have to ask my producers, can I say this on the show? I already know I shouldn't say it. If I have to ask, you already know. Skip, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. In 2016, we have some white America think this is still acceptable, and you want to, and they're going to use it, they're going to hide behind the guise of the First Amendment. You know what's up. Your First Amendment right should not be to offend 95 to 99% of a demographic. That shouldn't be. Look, there are so many costumes. If you can't be a superhero, you can't be a nurse or an athlete. First of all, if you pass the teenager, if you pass 15 or 16, why are you dressing up anyway, adults? I mean, this is ridiculous. And he went out in public, and not one person he passed said, bro, you need to take that off. Man,
well, we don't know that. I mean, somebody could have, right? I don't know. It seemed like people around him were pretty offended.
Now, were they taking all the pictures?
It seemed like they went to get the security pretty quickly. So let's get back to the flashpoint of this. This is just me. If I am running or overseeing a collegiate athletic event, and I'm the stadium operations manager or I'm the athletic director, the second I get wind of these two doing that, I am down there so fast, and I'm going to eject them from my crowd.
Yes.
Because it is not acceptable under any way, shape, or form. I'm going to give them their money back, but I'm going to ask them nicely, and if they won't react nicely, I'm going to have the security escort them out of my event, because that's a stain on that event. Any right-thinking American should think that's a stain on that event. But nobody did that. Somebody just eventually went down and asked nicely if the one guy with the noose around his neck, the other guy was pulling the noose, could you just remove the noose from your neck? And he did for a while, according to those around him. But after a while, those around him said he put the rope back around his neck and sat and cheered for the Badgers, as you said. Mm-hmm. Okay? Unacceptable. So that's two mistakes. Mm-hmm. You didn't eject them immediately, and then you allowed them, you thought that they could be trusted not to let them keep the rope, and not that they wouldn't put the rope back on as part of their costume. Mm-hmm. And they did, so it sent completely over the edge, as it should have, the black community at the university. So now, how does the black community respond? Well, I'm going to be pretty drastic here, but I'll just throw this on the table because of the history of issues that black community has faced in Madison, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And I'm not close to the situation. This is just me, my 2 cents from a distance. If I were a black man or a woman at that university, this could be so egregious for me. You have the right to, you can transfer, or if you're a professor or whoever, you can find another job. You don't have to stay there, right? And if you're an athlete, a student athlete, under scholarship, you have a pretty powerful tool that, as you just pointed out, we didn't used to have. You've got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got all kinds of social media. And if you want to, and this is drastic, but if you feel this strongly about how your school is treating you and your environment is treating you, you could put the message out that if you're a kid, a talented football or basketball player, and you're thinking about Wisconsin, don't come here, right? Right. You could do that. Exactly. I mean, that's strong, but I'm just saying, if it's come to that point that you think it's so out of control that it requires some action, you can take that action. That's one thing. You're either free to go, or you're free to use social media to what I think would do a lot of damage to that program, wouldn't it? If they started to campaign,
and it should be done.
Okay, all right. Well, then that's fine with me, because that fire could have been put out very quickly if somebody had been on top of it and in control of that environment, because it's a collegiate football game. It's not a pro football game. It's governed by the University of Wisconsin on their campus. So as soon as those two walked down the aisle, so as soon as they got to the gate, somebody in charge needed to be notified quickly, and somebody before they got to their seats, to me, should have interjected. And again, you give them, you have to be polite about it. You give them their money back, and you just politely tell them they are not welcome any longer in this environment at your stadium. And would that not have put that fire out?
I would like to think so, Skip, but I think over the last 18 months, and I could be wrong, I think what we are starting to see is becoming more acceptable to be openly and blatantly racist, because they used to hide behind certain elements and you never knew. But now Facebook, Twitter, because you get politicians that spew rhetoric and they're like, hold on, wait a minute. My senator said this. A presidential candidate said this. My governor said this. Now, these are people that we've elected to be our voice. Mm-hmm. If they think like this and it's okay, whoa, why can't I? And that's what we're starting to see. You know, Chris Rock said if you want to find out if someone is racist or not, there's an app on your phone. It's called Facebook and Twitter. He's absolutely right. Because it gives us a glimpse. It allows us to have a lens into how you really, really think and what you will say. Because what used to be go unknown and unnoticed.
That's true. I agree.
Hey, think about it, Skip. It's getting so bad. They will post it. That's the thing. They will post blackface on Facebook. They will post it on social media.
Sure.
Because now, I've seen over the last couple of years, hey, we got people that'll say and do whatever, and they go and they're popular. So I'm going to post it. And then they're like, and when they get backlash, they're like, what? It's only paint. It's only Halloween. But you know the meaning of that. You know how demeaning it is. Because the blackface, and when it came, when the whites did that in the 20s and 30s and had the big white lips or the red lips, you know how demeaning it is. You know how that the reaction that the majority of the African Americans will give when they see that. And that's what I'm saying, Skip. He didn't wait till he got to his seat to put that costume on.
No.
He walked from his dorm or his off-campus apartment.
Well,
he walked to the stadium. He walked down the steps to his seat.
Yeah.
So he probably passed 10,000 people.
Could have.
And I shouldn't say not.
But, you know, I would
But
like
how
to
many
think
people-
that one white person said one thing, just said, hey, that's not funny. I don't know that, but again, I'm sort of projecting myself into that situation. And trust me, I would be the first to say, hey, that's just not funny. You need to go home and take that off.
Think about this, Skip. He is the same guy that had that outfit on. Let's just say that Michigan or Ohio State was there, and they beat them in Camp Randall. He is the same guy that would have took that costume off and hugged every black player that he came in contact with.
I don't even know that for sure, but he would have cheered.
But the thing is that this should show you how a large part of a segment of society view you, whether you're an athlete, whether you're rich, whether you can sing, whether you can dance. They still view you in that light. Mm-hmm. And while you sit back and watch some of the people that have my seat and that are on television and say, I got mine, you get yours, or keep saying this is the liberal media feeding you some BS, you better wake up. Because if you think this is a joke, you think this is a game, this is reality. And in 2016, John Lewis, I don't know him. I know he's from Atlanta. I know his district. And he says, guys, if you don't think the situation is better now than it was in the 50s and 60s,
yep.
He almost lost his life. But do we want to go back there? I mean, I thought the objective is that when you go forward, you make sure you don't take any steps back. Because if you go forward, if I take 5 steps forward and I come 3 steps back, I haven't accomplished a whole lot. Mm-hmm. The objective is once you start to march forward, you take no steps backwards.
Okay, just for the record, just to be careful here, I think it's dangerous if we condemn or you condemn the entire white community of Madison, Wisconsin as racist. No. I know a whole bunch of Wisconsin grads, and they're coming up in my mind, and I'm thinking, I don't know for a fact, but I don't think he's racist. I don't think he's racist. You know, they would be outraged over this just as the black community was.
I'm always careful to say, not all or every, but there are some. And that some, it is large because you can see it growing. You can see this thing growing, Skip. And I'm not going to say all, but it's and a lot of times when people say things, oh, that's one bad apple. That's one situation. No. Because we see it prop up too many times over here in Wisconsin, over here in Arkansas, over here in Florida, over here in Georgia. We see it popping up for it to just be isolated incidents. It might not happen all the time in Madison, Wisconsin, but we see it popping up.
Well, it's obviously happening enough that this many student athletes and alumni and students feel the need to put out a press release, basically about it, a plea for help and support from the institution. It's obviously happening that much.
And some colleges are already, when Halloween was rolling around, they send out memos.
Yeah.
Please do not wear racist or offensive. Think about that, Skip. In today's time, in 2016, you have to have a conversation with your student body about what not to do.
Well, I would agree that a lot of that is coming from community leaders, ministers, and, politicians who are using this rhetoric and promoting this sort of hate speech. So if they can do it, like you said, why can't they do it? We'll have to leave it there.
No mercy.
How about them Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys are on a 7-game winning streak and are also leading the league in jersey sales. Rookie Ezekiel Elliott has the most jersey sales in the NFL since April 1st. Dak Prescott is 5th, Des Bryant is 11th, and Jason Witten is 14th. We're joined once again by Chris Carter. Chris, are the Cowboys America's team?
Well, I'm starting to find something out because I used to do some work with him. Mm-hmm. He had his own show and everything.
Back at that old place.
But but he do a little lightweight producing. I see he brought that over here because I know the people in the control room. I know this is not their topic. So this is what this is. I understand. Mr. Producer.
What did you
At the
say?
end of the show, y'all make sure y'all
Four
get
of the top 15?
It's just news.
Okay.
Just news.
But let me tell you about Witten, okay? Mm-hmm. At this point in his career, why are people buying his jerseys? Okay?
He plays for the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Des Bryant established himself in the league 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. Why are people still buying Des Bryant jerseys? All right? Matter of fact, I would debate that the 88, it shouldn't even be nobody playing it after Mike Irvin played it.
Thank you.
Right. But
I agree
that's
with that.
another thing.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you go to Minnesota, you want number 80, you got to go up in the rafters and try to put it on. I told him I'll let you put it on for warm-ups. For the game time, it got to go back up. But I understand the kids. Dak, he should be.
Right.
Phenomenal. I mean, he could be the biggest story in the NFL thus far. And Zeke the Freak, coming from Ohio State, the top pick, a top 5 pick like that, I could see why would he be there. But as far as America's team is, so now it's based on purchasing power. Okay, because to me, there's 4 teams that set themselves apart from all the other organizations. That's the Green Bay Packers, publicly owned. The New England Patriots, because the way they do things and championships. The Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the largest followings ever. Like, those are the most popular teams. After that, the Denver Broncos. The Dallas Cowboys are in there. So from purchasing power, yeah, they're one of the most popular teams. But let's look at record. Okay? How can they be the favorite team of America? Now, they got a lot of purchasing power. They got a great fan base. Oh, I love that. They got a great following. But they following from 30 and 40 years ago. When I was a kid, Joe, I was Dallas Cowboys. Okay?
There we
really was.
Now we're getting
when
to
that,
the guts
When that offensive line came out and they went up like this and the running back split, I said, they got me.
That's it.
I'm a wide receiver. That's fancy. I like that. The top hat. The opening in the building so God could watch the team play.
Thank you.
Man, they had me on that. But I've been watching them closely the last 20 years. And ain't
You
no
ain't
way.
seen much.
No, because there's been a lot of football play where the Cowboys ain't playing. I'm talking about playoffs.
Yep.
Like when they giving out the trophies, I ain't seen the Cowboys. Now I'm a big fan of the triplets, all of them. Mike, Troy, Mike's one of my favorites all time. Emmett. But that's not this team. Yeah. Now, they got a great following, much respect to the Cowboys and their fans. And they've been waiting long enough. I'm so glad now that they can spend some of their well-earned money on their team, because I grew up the same way as a Cowboys fan, but that was 30 years ago.
I ain't never liked the Cowboys. I was a Steelers fan. And every time.
That's enough. That's all you need to say.
Every time the Steelers beat them, I loved it. I loved that. Like, get him, Mean Joe, knock Roger Staubach, knock him down. But you know what? As much as I hate to admit it, money and eyeballs say this is America's team.
Ooh.
Because since they last won
Now, you need to stop, man.
But look at this, CC.
You're a bad influence on him.
I am.
Okay.
I'm infiltrating his psyche.
How about this here? Since they last won the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots have gone to 7 and won 4. The Denver Broncos have gone to 4 and won 3. There are 22 teams that have more playoff wins than the Dallas Cowboys since they last won. So here they are.
Is there 32 teams in the league?
32.
Oh, okay.
So they're in that 10. They're in that 10, Skip. I ain't good. Remember, I told you. Once they got class timetables, me and Math, we fell out.
Only went to school to see the girls.
So, Skip, this is what I don't understand, though. They're talking about America's team, but I thought America loved winners. We love winners. We love to be on top. When we go to the Olympics, we ain't cheering for the guy to get second, third.
Mm-hmm.
We're not cheering for him to get last. We cheering for him to get first. And all this money they spend on these jerseys, I'm trying to figure out the millennials, the 18 to 34, the last time. So if you take that age, the last time they won something, they were 14. So if you take the bottom metrics of that, they wasn't even born when they won anything. And they still buy these jerseys.
They have won 5 Super Bowls. They have. And they have played in 8. 5 out of 8.
Skip.
Dynasty in the 70s. Dynasty in the 90s. You were hooked. You admitted it.
Skip. Oh, Chris and I, CC and I made that abundantly clear. But the millennials, the majority of them don't even remember them with 5 Super Bowls, a dynasty.
So here's...
It's kind of like, let's make America great again.
Oh, one of those.
Let's make the Cowboys great again.
Yeah, absolutely.
America has always been great. Because the Cowboys have always been America's team.
Well, America's been great for some, not but go ahead.
Go ahead. I know what I got you. But here's the point. This topic is killing both of you because you know it's true and you can't give into it, but it's eating at you because, let me just give you a small sample size. We are here in Los Angeles, California, near Hollywood, and every morning I pull up to the gate here at the Fox lot about 3:45 or 3:50, and the guy who lets me in stops me for 3 or 4 minutes to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Then I come into the lobby, and invariably, the guard in the lobby stops me to talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Derek.
Yeah, you got it, because they're such big Cowboy fans. Then when I leave here, sometime around noontime, I have to set aside time because there's going to be a new security guard in the lobby who's going to stop me and ask me, how about them Cowboys? And when I leave here and go out the guard gate, the guy who opens the gate for me is a new guard. This is the 4th one I've encountered. He stops me to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. They are everywhere. The old network we used to work for, we would take our show on the road. You never went with us on the road. But every audience we had in whatever city we were in, from New York to San Francisco, would be dotted with blue jerseys. And afterward, I would meet and greet, and I would always ask the kids, the millennials, even sub-millennials, the teenagers, how did this happen? And you know what invariably I hear about it? I just saw those jerseys when I was a little kid, and I was hooked by the jersey. And I hark back to Tex Schramm, the architect, the guy who invented the Dallas Cowboys, once told me for a book that I was writing. Are you better?
I'm good now.
Okay, now you're good.
I'm good.
You threw up your cookies.
Was that from the gut punch?
Because you know I got you on the run
you?
here. Tex Schramm told me that he actually handpicked those metallic blue and silver colors by trying them in front of a TV camera, so he picked the color that was most pleasing to the eye. So it's almost like you indoctrinate the kids. They see it on TV and they say, what a cool color. What a cool uniform. I think it got you when you were a kid, just the color, the star on the side of the helmets.
Don't be making up stuff for me.
But you told me. You saw the
formation and those new color jerseys. Remember, they used to lose in those all the time. So they used to love wearing the white ones.
Yes. Okay, I admit. There was one segment about the Cowboys I love. Cheerleaders. They got me, CC.
Well, but they were the first to do that.
You're so easy.
Yeah,
they got me.
That is pretty easy. But the point is that over the years, they became the most loved and the most hated team. Yeah. So even last year, to your point about they're losers. Last year, they went 4-12, and the 3 highest-rated TV games of the whole NFL year were Cowboy games. 2 of them started by Matt Castle, from the castle I used to say to the outhouse. Remember, so mostly to the outhouse with Matt Castle. So that's all you need to know. Case closed.
Skip, do you remember last year when New England played in Dallas?
Yeah. Do I?
Do you remember panning the crowd? And it seemed like New England had moved into Jerry World.
Mm-hmm. That happens a lot.
And then the chance
Pittsburgh, Green Bay,
Brady,
they can all do it.
Brady. And when you go on the road, I remember the Super Bowl in Detroit. Mm-hmm. I could have swore it was a home game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Better since last game. I played against the Green Bay Packers. I've seen the Packers fans. They travel all around the world for their team. So I believe that there are other teams. But I believe America's team now, because it's the most loved and the most hated, is New England. And just like he said, okay, New England is America's team.
But the TV ratings do not back you up.
No. And that's the only thing. That's the only reason I say yes, Skip, because the dollars and the eyeballs says whether you hate them or you love them or you love to hate them, whatever your reasons are, the money being spent and the eyeballs to television, and that's the only thing we can go by. Saying the Cowboys, them sorry, hadn't won anything in 2 decades. Skip Bayless loving, blue star hat wearing. Oh, they make me sick.
I so hope they make it to Houston and play New England. Ooh, I so hope.
I would love that also.
Those were my preseason
we
picks.
are all rooting for that.
I've never rooted for the Patriots. But if they play the Cowboys, I promise you, I'm putting on a Tom Brady jersey.
I'm going to have on a hoodie. I'm going to have on a hoodie.
You want to do it. Just say it. Say it.
I'm going to have me a Gronk jersey on in the first half and a Tom Brady in the second one. I want him to hang 59 on.
No. We're all hoping for that Super Bowl.
No mercy.
Last night, Steph Curry set the NBA single-game record with 13 three-pointers in a game. We're joined now by Nelly. Welcome back.
What's happening?
Do you think that Steph Curry is the best shooter ever?
Of course he is. Of course he is. And if he's not, then how is he not? That's the thing. The thing is he's...
Maybe I'll tell you.
Well, you're going to try. You're going to try. I'm sure you're going to come with something. But, again, I think it's all in the numbers. The proof is in the pudding. Obviously what he did last night is something that I think he's going to break that record. I think he
probably will.
I think he eventually is going to break that record. I think, he has one of the highest three-point percentages in history from beyond the arc. And it's not like he's taking three-pointers that are, debatable, like close to the line or not really uncontested. He's not shooting a lot of them that's wide open. He always has one or two guys in his face. A lot of them are off balance. A lot of them are off the dribble, which is incredible. Only guy I probably ever seen kind of do that, or reminiscent of it, was maybe a Steve Nash, Mark Price type of feel, kind of get up to the line and launch quick. But I don't see how he isn't. I don't see how he isn't. I would love to hear what you have to say. Probably wouldn't love to hear it, but I know I will eventually.
This is a trick question.
If
there's a shooter better than Steph Curry, he's 15 years away from being born.
Right.
So let's just take the greatest shooters. Let's say Reggie Miller, Ray Allen,
right,
Larry Bird. They didn't have the range of this kid. When they say you have to guard him starting at half court,
they mean it.
That's for real. We've never seen anybody have the range in which he can shoot the basketball with. We've never seen anybody shoot with that percentage from that range, and we've never seen anyone shoot off the dribble.
Right.
See, Reggie and Ray were more screen guys. They coming off screen. Nah, dude dribbling the basketball, you down in your stance, and as the great Mark Jackson says, hand down, man down, in your mug. Skip, the record. Ray Allen had the three-point record at 269. He broke it with 272. And everybody's like, well, he got hot that year. And so the next year he come back, he had 261. They say, see, I told you. He broke it the following year after the 261 with 286. He said, he only beat Ray, but Ray wouldn't shoot threes like that. He said, you know what? I'm going to shut all y'all up. 300, because see, if I hit 300, y'all going to say, oh, he got lucky, he got hot one night. I'm going to drive past 300. I'm going to 4. So now what? So anybody that might have thought about they were great shooting the basketball, Reggie, Ray Allen. Now, Ray Allen hit the most clutch three-pointer ever. Larry Bird, Steve Nash. Ooh. But as far as just shooting the basketball, the dude shooting corner threes is like a free throw.
Yeah.
He's stepping. The dude shooting 29-footers. Like it's a regular shot. I'm talking about he's not changing his motion. That's what's so amazing about it. His normal motion from 30 feet is just like his normal motion from the free throw line. He is the greatest. And there's some things you don't debate. Like when they ask you who's the greatest receiver to ever play football, it's Jerry.
It's Michael Irvin.
We debate.
It's Michael Irvin.
We debate.
I just debated it.
Stop.
I'm not stopping. I'm not backing off. It's Michael Irvin. I'm sorry. It's Michael Irvin.
And I love Mike to death.
You better.
I love him to death, but he knows that.
We debate.
You know better than
we
that.
debate running backs. It could be Jim Brown. It
Right.
could be Walter Payton. It
Right.
could be Gale Sayers. Okay, quarterback. Joe Montana. Tom Brady, no John Elway. There's certain things you don't debate.
Right.
It's not even up for discussion.
I don't think
Is it my turn?
I don't think running back
is it my turn?
Skip. Chef Steph says you can go.
Come on with it.
This is LeBron James.
No.
He give me permission. He's now the commissioner of sports, I think. So. Right?
For real.
They got the best team in basketball right now, don't they?
Okay, here we go.
By far.
For the record, and you can look it up, I said before Steph's draft, I'm taking him number 1 overall over Blake Griffin. You can look it up, and I was dead right about that because now that's not debatable. Okay, but has he proven to be the greatest shooter ever? Because when you're talking greatest shooter ever, you got to do it on the greatest, biggest stage ever, which is called the NBA Finals, and I have yet to see that from Steph Curry in the NBA Finals when the pressure is greatest and the stakes are the highest. I'm sorry, I'm waiting to see. If we're just doing vacuum, if we're doing who can launch it from the farthest, the most consistent in games that don't really count, I'll give you Steph Curry every night. But I'm not going to give you 13 threes against the 0-7 Pelicans in Golden State. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. You're right. He should hit 15 or 18 because it's the Pelicans.
That doesn't matter.
Okay? So the first finals against LeBron James, and he had no help because he lost Kyrie in the first game, right? And he didn't have Kevin Love to start with. And in those first 2 games in Golden State, Steph Curry shot 4 for 21 from 3 and put them in a hole that they shouldn't have been able to climb out of because LeBron James was up 2-1 with Game 4 in his house. And what changed that whole series was an insertion into the starting lineup by Steve Kerr. He put Iguodala in the starting lineup to take LeBron James away from the Cavaliers, and Iggy did just that. And Iggy was both offensive and defensive MVP of that series, and he was the reason Golden State rebounded to win that series. Then what happened last year when Golden State was up 3-1 on LeBron James, right? LeBron James, where is he? Yeah, don't put him up there. What happened in the last 3 fourth quarters? Was Steph right? Did he have a bum knee? I think he had a bum knee. But this is the biggest stage, biggest moments when if you're the greatest shooter ever in 3 straight fourth quarters, you cannot go a combined 3 for 12 from 3 in those fourth quarters. And in Game 7, overall, from 3, you cannot go 4 for 14 because that's what Steph Curry went in a game that was begging in Golden State for him to win it. The 2-time MVP, I'm sorry, you have to close that deal at home. You have to make at least 1 fourth quarter clutch shot that has your mouth hanging open, where you say, there he was, and there he wasn't.
My mouth was, hold on, Nelly, my mouth was hanging open when LeBron chased
when Kyrie hit the shot. That's when your mouth was hanging open.
So is Robert Horry a better three-point shooter than Steph Curry?
Well, he's hit more clutch. But Robert Horry was not the 2-time back-to-back MVP.
That doesn't matter. You're switching it.
Does.
You're switching it.
I'm
You're
not
saying hit clutch.
anything.
You're saying hit clutch three-pointers when it matters. Now, as I can remember, nobody has hit more clutch three-pointers when it matters than Robert Horry.
Big shot ball.
Than Robert Horry. Now, so is Robert Horry ahead of everybody?
Ever? Ray Allen, right now, is the greatest shooter ever because he's made the most big clutch shots in big games, including, as you point out, unfortunately for my San Antonio Spurs, he hit the biggest clutch shot I have ever seen. Greatest ever, from the corner, ripped it to force overtime in Game 6.
I saw Derek Fisher hit one that was pretty big once before in the playoffs.
But that wasn't the finals. That was 0.7 seconds left.
No, the thing about it is he the best shooter ever? Yes, he is. And I'll tell you why. Because he's been shooting them since he was a kid. Now, the thing that I will give Bird credit for is the three-point line was more of a novelty shot when Bird came into play. He has not been shooting three-pointers his whole career. It was more of a jump shot type of feel. And then also once he got to the NBA, there were not really plays ran to shoot three-pointers. And you only shot them when you desperately needed them or when you were down as many and things of that nature. What I do think is that if Bird had been shooting three-pointers since the time he could pick up a basketball a la Steph Curry, he would possibly be in this conversation. But you know what I'm saying? He would definitely be in this conversation.
So here's the point. Do you trust Steph Curry in the NBA Finals to be the greatest shooter ever? Because that's 2 straight finals.
But it's not proven to be. It's not just in the finals. Is he the greatest shooter ever? That's just the question. It's not in the finals. It's not out of the finals.
I need you to do it on the biggest stage. Are we going out and playing horse? If we're going to play horse, he's the greatest shooter ever. It's not even close.
As long as he doesn't
Seriously.
First of all, you like Barry Bonds.
I love him.
He has
Greatest
no
player
rings.
ever.
He has no rings.
So
on the
why?
biggest
Should
stage,
have. Dusty
on the
Baker
biggest
took
stage,
one away
on the
from him.
biggest stage, he has not done it.
Okay, but he did it in
On
that
the
series
biggest
against the
stage,
Angels.
on the biggest
Should have been
stage,
the MVP.
on the biggest stage, he has not done it, Skip. Don't switch it. Now, if we're going to go to that, because I agree without a doubt that Barry Bonds is possibly the greatest baseball player that ever played. That's just me personally.
Okay, but one player
But
has
he
far
has
more
not done
impact
it.
over a basketball game than one player
doesn't matter.
in
We're
baseball
talking
does.
about
Barry
his
Bonds
plate.
wasn't a pitcher, so he
His
can't
plate
control his
appearances.
pitching.
He doesn't have that many home runs in the playoffs.
Okay, because he didn't have good enough pitching to
Does
get him
not
deep into
matter.
Yes,
Does
it
not
does.
matter. When you get there, what are you doing? Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. He's definitely the greatest shooter of our era, and I think Ray Allen would say that as well.
Well, a week ago, Steph said that Ray was the greatest
That's
shooter.
self-deprecating.
Of course, he's going to say that.
Skip,
He's
when they
going to
ask-
say that.
When they ask me, they say, well, who's the best tight end? I'm going to say Kellen. I'm going to say Ozzie. But
Right.
damn, but you know. You know.
I'm going to say Jason Witten.
Oh, man, you better stop playing. See, Skip. See, this is why you and I.
Boom. Boy,
This is why you and
He
I.
is crazy.
See what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
see?
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
And then.
He
and
did
then-
tie your record.
I don't know how you do it.
He did. He passed
He
your record.
tweets, and then I didn't know what record did Jason get. He tweeted me.
He tweeted it.
And then talking about, what record? Oh, Jason went. Oh, Jason.
Oh,
You
slow
know
Jason.
that King Petty.
Caught-
No mercy.
Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers. I am going to go on, I'm going to beat it, and I'm going to have fun. Okay, so thank you again, and I'll see you soon.
Magic announced he had HIV. Magic tweeted, "Thank you to my family, friends, business partners, Laker Nation, and fans around the world for all of your love, prayers, and support." Nelly is still with us. Nelly, what are your thoughts on it 25 years later?
You know, I was in high school when this was brought out, and we didn't know as much. We were just learning about HIV and AIDS, and you know, a lot of the campaigns were going on around the world, and a lot of the awareness was just starting to be established. I wouldn't even say out there. It was just starting to be established. So when you heard it, the only thing you naturally thought about was, I'm going to be front, you just thought instantly death. Oh my goodness.
Do you remember where you were when you heard it?
I don't remember exactly where I was when I heard it, because I don't think I saw the live feed. I think I actually heard about it, and then, you know, you hear it, and then you
Were you a
finally see
fan?
it on the news. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Who wasn't a fan of Magic Johnson? Yep. You know, it was sad, man. It was sad. It was depressing. I wouldn't say I cried, but I definitely sniffled, and you wonder what was next and why this was happening, and you had so many questions, and you wanted to know things, and you just wanted Magic to be all right, and you know, you didn't really know where to go from there.
I remember exactly where I was. I mean, it's all, and it plays back. I was in my second year in 1991. I remember Jim Armstrong. I don't know if he was reporting for the Denver Post or the Rocky Mountain News. He asked, we were getting ready to break practice because, you know, at the start of practice, the reporters are there, and at the end, they start to filter back out. And he said, "Did you hear about Magic?" I'm like, "No, he's retiring." I'm like, "Why is he retiring?" He says he has AIDS. And at the time, I'm like, AIDS, from all we've ever heard, you get AIDS two ways: IV drug use, contaminated needles, or same-sex relationships.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, damn. And then AIDS was a death sentence. Now, I'm not thinking about how he got it. I'm like, Magic's gonna die. Because I had never known anyone to live. I mean, that was a death sentence. You got that disease, you died. And I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, Magic Johnson's gonna die. Right. I was a big fan because I had the white and purple and yellow All-Stars. I had the birds on
Converse.
also. They were heavy.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, Magic Johnson's gonna. It didn't even being away from basketball, having to retire, because, you know, having to retire from the game, that's secondary. Now this man, because now you talk about, I remember I was in high school and Rock Hudson died of AIDS. But I couldn't relate to Rock Hudson. I wasn't in that type of entertainment. Yep. I'm a professional athlete. Magic Johnson's a professional athlete. Now, we're not on the same level, but I can relate to that because this is something that I do. I'm a professional. And I'm thinking like, dang, could this... And and here we are 25 years later. And for a lot of, and Skip, you mentioned, for a lot of people, he's known more for his entrepreneurial, the Magic Johnson Theaters, all the Starbucks. I don't know if he's still on, but I know he's still on the theaters. He's known more for that and his outreach for the AIDS than he was a basketball player. You talk about one of the 5 greatest players of all time, and he's known for his business savvy, owning a part of the Lakers, owning a part of the Dodgers, and all this is going on. And it's just so unbelievable that you look at him, and I remember seeing him for the first time, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this is the best part of my job is when I see people that I only saw on television and I get an opportunity to meet them. So imagine seeing the Magic Johnson for the very first time. And when I saw him for the very first time, I had already known the news. And I didn't care about nothing. I had to go up to him and hug him. I had to go up and dap him up. I don't care. This Magic Johnson. And for him to get through this and to become what he later became, it's just unbelievable, and I'm just so happy for him. I'm not happy that he contracted this disease, but I'm happy for the way he handled himself, his survival, and how he brought awareness that this does not have to be a death sentence. Because he could have chose to die, but he chose to live.
He was chosen. Like this was his purpose in life. I was privileged to know Magic as a player, and I know him now. And I can make the case he was the most beloved athlete ever in any sport. Does that work?
Yeah.
Can you challenge that? Because for me, and this may be from a white perspective, but Ali touched my soul. He touched me deeper, but Magic touched my heart. He got me right away just watching him at Michigan State.
Right.
Just the joy with which he played the game of basketball. Dominated with joy is like a weird. I've never seen that combination before. Where you are 6 feet 9 inches tall, you're the greatest passer I ever saw. You become Showtime, and it's all so much fun to you. And then November 7th, 1991, I was in Dallas, Texas, about to do a radio show, and I can tell you we blew out everything that we were planning to do on the Dallas Cowboys that day, and. It was the shockingly saddest story I have ever encountered because I'm with you. I didn't know any better. I thought death sentence. This man was only 32 years of age in his prime. I'm sure he had 4 or 5 really big, good years left. And the saddest part of the story below the potential death sentence was it took basketball away from him. And he tried so hard. Remember, he came back for the 92 All-Star game, and he was great in the All-Star game, and the MVP of that game with a little help from his friends. And then he tried to come back the next year and play. And remember, he became pariah among the players who...
Karl Malone said he didn't want to play on the
because nobody knew enough. Open wound. I don't want to get AIDS. I don't want this. And he tried one more time, 95, 96. He lasted 32 games. And then he went to Europe and he tried the Magic Johnson All-Stars because he just wanted to play basketball. And it got taken from him. And then he sat back down and he finally said, okay, now what? And you know what what was. He became as great an entrepreneur as we've ever seen. I mean, this man dominates. He's dominating the business world the way he dominated basketball.
Absolutely.
It is stunning what this man has wrought. And obviously he's had stakes in obviously the Lakers and Dodgers and the Sparks and the MLS team. Woo! And it's a pleasure to know him. He has God in his heart, and he has overcome one of the greatest traumas. It was such a public trauma, and it was such a humiliation for him. Just the humiliation of it, because at that time it was disease we only knew had touched mostly gay men. And then we were like, what happened? And then he wound up writing a book called What You Can Do to Avoid AIDS in 1996. So he attacked. And he became a spokesman. And, man, I love you, man, Magic. You're an all-timer. You are the all-timer to me.
And I think that's the biggest thing, Skip, because as an athlete, we're very, very guarded. And there are certain secrets that we do not want to get out. And when this became public, I mean, because let's just take Charlie Sheen. how he kept his secret for so long, and the thought of it getting out, he wanted to get in front of it. Well, Magic really didn't have that opportunity. It was like he found out one day, and then he's having a press conference. So now everything, your most intimate, is out for public viewing, and he has to live with this. And as I said, he could have chosen to go into hiding, to seclusion. He chose to step out into the forefront. He never disappeared from the media. He chose to live. Some people choose to die from the embarrassment, the humiliation of it. Right. He says, oh, no, I'm Magic Johnson. I'm going to live, and I'm going to show others how they can also live with this disease. And not only live,
thrive.
You know, some people say, well, I'm surviving. Surviving isn't living. Magic Johnson chose to live, to become something far greater. You know, because like I said, he's a 5-time champion. He's a 3-time MVP. We know what he did in college, and he and Bird put the NBA back on the map because before them, everything was tape delayed. So you didn't even get an opportunity to get to see the finals. They played, and then you saw it a day later. He brought it into your living rooms, he and Larry Bird. And then
by the way, he put the Final Four on the map, too.
Yeah,
they did.
It's still the most watched Final Four game in NCAA history. And I'm just so glad. Like I said, I don't know him really well. But the time, it's the way he makes you feel when you meet him for the very first time. The very first time I met Magic, I was 24, 25 years old. If you didn't know better, you'd have thought Magic Johnson known me for 15 years. Because that's just the way he makes you feel. He dap you up, how you doing? I know you, how your brother doing? And I'm like, how this dude know? Because it's, like I said, and I tell people all the time, what's the best part of your job? I say, besides working, busting Skip up on the reg, is seeing the people that I only saw on television, to meet them. Man, I mean, to meet Mr. Bob Arum and to see Reggie Jackson. See, Nelly, I know him. He a big dog. I see him. Used to see him in Atlanta. We all-star game together and things like that. But to see people and to see Magic, that's Magic Johnson. He knew my name. He dapping me up and talking to me like we homeboys.
Yeah, Magic is he's an all-timer.
The good thing about Magic is once you found that out, you just wanted to see him smile again. That's the only thing. You just thought, like, that's instantly what I thought about. It's like, wow, will we ever see him smile again? Because, you know, that's what Magic is known for. It's just that smile. It's just that smile. That smile would brighten up the room. That smile could make you, you know, forget about so many things. But when he announced that, and he also smiled and said, yo, I'm going to fight.
Takes a very strong person to face something like that and turn it into what he has.
No mercy.
This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on Channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday when Joel Klatt stops by. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports, one of one.